Hello, everyone. We're back with our net zero conversation, yet another podcast. And today we have a special guest. Today we have Narasimhan SL, who's based out of Bangalore, and has been working with Equity. So Narasimhan serves as the Chief Human Resources Officer at Acuity Analytics, overseeing human resources, training, and knowledge management. And also corporate services. As a member of the executive committee, he's shaping the company's global people strategy to support its fast paced growth and transformation. For almost 25 years, he's been working in this space, has worked nationally, internationally with some of the prominent corporations in the space of people matters, in the space of HR, in that sense. So, welcome, Narasimhan, for this conversation this morning.
Lindu, thank you for having me here. Good day. I look forward to the chat with you today.
Perfect, Narasimhan. So, Narasimhan, we know that there's a lot of buzz around net zero, as in you as an organization, as an individual, have been committed to it as well. So let's begin with what does net zero actually mean to your organization, to Equity Analytics, and how is it actually embedded in your long-term corporate vision? So, what is net zero for you in a nutshell?
So, simply put, right? We believe as an enterprise, we have responsibilities to our customers, our employees, our shareholders, and I think more importantly, the communities that we live and operate in, right? So it's that foundation on the basis of the responsibilities that we have, which helped us with our ESG program. We launched this in 2022 with a pretty ambitious goal. We wanted to be net zero by 2050. Right? We recognize this as trying to get ahead of what a country baseline is, if you think about it from an India perspective. But recognizing that we are a global organization, we thought a net zero goal by 2050 was something that was ambitious for where we were, but something that was doable for us. Now, we've made a lot of progress, right? So we've had some of our goals ratified by the SBTi. That's giving us validation of the fact that directionally we're progressing in the right place. The mechanisms that we are putting in place are working, and there's an external and independent body that's verifying and certifying some of that for us. So in a lot of ways, it's a way of working. It's beyond the statement on the wall, with a lot of embedding of what we do in our day-to-day that we have in here.
Perfect. So very interesting, like what you said, that India actually has a 2070 target to actually reach net zero. And we also have a 2030 target of decarbonization journey, in the sense we're looking at almost 50% of energy reduction in terms of fossil energy dependence that we have, and also in terms of carbon intensity reduction of 45%. And that's what India's journey is. And it's very good to hear that actually, if India's target is 2070, you have an ambitious roadmap to really achieve your company's net zero by 2050 itself. So all the best with that. And therefore, the next question that we have is, when you actually get on this journey, fundamentally, you are a profit-making organization, and not just you, as in largely when we look at corporate sector, they're all, for them, bottom line is actually money, money, money. And therefore, this entire purpose of net zero, how do you actually strike that balance between profitability and purpose? Because this is not your core business. Your core business is to do financially well, but to think about the planet, to think about carbon, to really embed it. How do you strike that balance between, as I said, profitability and purpose?
Listen, I have a foundationally different view around the fact that organizations can't coexist with purpose, right? Sure, yes, we're in a business. Yes, we've got accountability to our shareholders, but I think what's important for us is to recognize and appreciate that profitability and purpose don't necessarily stand at opposite ends of a spectrum always, right? And there are ways and means we can always strengthen that partnership and purpose by working well together, right? Now, we're also big believers in the fact that your long-term business growth is incredibly contingent upon and is possible only when the communities that you live and work in thrive and grow, right? So therefore, as a firm and as a franchise, we're very deeply committed to giving back to the communities that we live and operate in. We clearly are big lovers of the communities that we live in, right? I mean, they are the ones that have given us what we have today. So I feel we have an obligation to kind of give back. And therefore, we're not at cross purposes here, but we believe there's an opportunity to kind of get this together, right? Now, if you think about how does this translate in the day to day, right? Uh, we don't negotiate when we have budget conversations on some of these targets, right? I mean, it's a clear budget that's set aside. It's part of the way we operate. There is no, it's not up for debate or discussion, right? In a lot of ways, it's given. If you think about some of the work we do in this particular space, right? I mean, our commitment on our community programs hinges on what we call the three E's internally. So there's employability, there's environment, there's education, right? And we feel if you go back to the point that I was making earlier around committed to giving back in the communities we live and operate in, ensuring that business grows when the communities thrive and grow, things like the focus that we have around employability, the environment, and the education are directly going back to that particular core purpose here, if you will. Now, how do we do this? We do this in a few different ways, right? I mean, so through some of the efforts that we've had, we've touched about 100,000 lives over the course of the many years that we've been at with this. We obviously work really well with our partners. There's work that we've done to create holistic ecosystems that uplift the communities. There's a lot of focus around skill building for us, things like financial literacy, giving people employability. I mean, as Jack Welch said, right? It's lifelong employability, right? And that's why there's a level of intertwining between where we are and what we are trying to do here overall. So we've also done a lot of work with our women entrepreneurs that we support. We've given them courses around financial literacy, sustainable business. We've helped them get production processes that are green and sustainable. We've also done a lot in terms of investing in education. If you think about issues around the world today, a disproportionate part of the issues around the world are led by lack of education. So we fundamentally believe that if you have the right access to education, you can drive foundational behavior change and longer term thinking, right? To that effect, we work with a lot of partners who support children. We try and change the lives of children. If I can give a couple of examples, in the UK, our senior team goes into the communities that we support. We pick up children who live in households that are not necessarily as fortunate as many one of us are. And our goal is very simple. The environment that a child grows in is foundational to forming long-term views and beliefs. So quite literally, we go in the morning when the kid goes to school, and by the time the kid comes back, we transform that bedroom of that child to something that they wouldn't have probably imagined, if you know what I mean, right? I mean, it's efforts like that that go back and try and create that lasting impact. And we also have a lot of partnership in some of our other locations like Sri Lanka, where we've got a big workforce, where we do a lot around employability, the environment, and education here as well.
Perfect, Narasimhan. So rightly put, the stereotype that we usually have that, businesses have no business of working in the society or do good in that sense. And what you rightly put that yes, you are in business, that's not at the cost of your purpose, but purpose and responsibility and business can go hand in hand. It's not as if there's a conflict. So, and therefore the stories that you just shared with regard to your international work, and also I'm witness to your national work in the sense and of course we'll talk about how CHRO, and equity work together on many of these fronts. Now, there's another stereotype, Narasimhan, usually that a lot of times these so-called purpose-driven activities, or sometimes it's also clubbed as CSR, like corporate social responsibility, it's only the dream or the imagination or the drive of the leadership team. It's only the CEO and the CEO's wives or the CXOs actually run that. That's how the stereotype or the traditional understanding of businesses with responsibility doing projects work. And now what I've also witnessed in your case, and therefore that I would like to ask you, that it's not just the top leadership, it's actually everybody in the organization who thinks that it's their business and their purpose to get involved in these verticals or these these activities, which is beyond the bottom line of that kind that we were actually talking about earlier. So my next question to you is that how are employee engagement and social responsibility especially shaping up your organization's ESG goals? So it's not just leaders, it's not one Narasimhan or 20 Narasimhans who are actually the bosses, but everybody. How do you make it everybody's business? And how does it actually happen along with social responsibility?
So I'm happy to be vulnerable and say that in the last year, I've done far less volunteering and giving back compared to some of what our staff have done overall, right? And I say that with a lot of pride. And I say that primarily because I want to break that narrative or the stereotype that it's top down and it only matters for people at the top of the house. Like I said, I'm incredibly happy and shameless to say my teams have done way more than what I've done and well, what I would have liked to do for that matter, right? So we are a talent first organization, right? So we have a pretty highly engaged workforce. And we take it upon us as a functional leadership to say we got to go out and listen to our staff fairly regularly, right? And a lot of our response to our staff engagement surveys wears the lens of you said it, we did it. And what we keep hearing back from our staff is how important giving back to the communities that we live and work in and the importance that it holds for them is something that we continue to keep hearing, right? So therefore, a lot of the work that we do in that space is tying directly back into and is being led by our staff and our resource groups who are kind of pushing us to say, hey, what about going here and doing something? What about going here and doing something? I mean, I'll give you a really good example, right? We recently had a bit of a crisis in Sri Lanka. It was a very unfortunate situation with the flooding come end of year. I mean, our staff were so considered that they came back and said, hey, there are funds from our Christmas party that we'd like to divert to the causes. We're very passionate about the community and the environment and some of the impact that's been created. So how do we go back and put against those causes, right? I mean, so they kind of led us in the direction of saying, here's where we want to go. And that's where I think the power of the employee group starts to come in. What that group has done is it's clearly created an organization that's very deep rooted in the culture of green thinking and responsible citizenship. If I can think about some stats and share, we've had about 3,000 staff roughly volunteer. We're a 7,000 people organization, and we only became 7,000 last year with an acquisition of 1,000 people. So roughly 50% of our staff, if you think about it, from a 2025 baseline, have gone out and done volunteering. We've clocked up about 7,000 hours of volunteering with about 75 different activities. We go back and help societies around us build IT and infrastructure models. I mean, clearly we deploy a lot of resources that don't serve our purpose, but have a long way to go in terms of giving a life to the other parts of the ecosystem that we live in. So there's a lot of work that our teams do there. The theme around sustainability from an environment standpoint has meant our teams have done a lot of beach cleanup work in some of the locations we operate in, particularly in Sri Lanka. About 3,000 kilograms, 300 kilograms rather, of waste have been collected through that particular effort. We take the notion of creating impact from a financial literacy and an education standpoint seriously, because that's where you catch them young, you train them, and you give them a view. Because at the end of the day, the future depends on what are we doing today. The seeds we sow today are the ones that we reap tomorrow. And therefore, our resource groups are very intentional and mindful in terms of going out and partnering with those groups. So that's how we drive our employee efforts to create ecosystems that are meaningful, that drive measurable change and impact the communities at all the levels.
Absolutely. So, Narasimhan, also based on my experience with your organization, with Acuity, and looking at how things are. So, one is that one is skilled volunteering, where someone who's actually supposed to be an IT expert actually shares his or her IT expertise in the community. That's one thing. And the other form of volunteering is that you do enough of IT work in your 9 to 5 job, and therefore you'd rather go and play guitar for the disadvantaged, or work with the street children, or perhaps cook a meal in a community kitchen. So I think that's that's the diverse kind of volunteering opportunities and engagements and the stories that you just shared, like, of be it of flooding or setting up an IT library or IT infrastructure in that sense. And that also somewhere, as you rightly said, it's part of the HR process in the sense a lot of motivation for people to stick around and to also rate the place of work as a good place of work is not just good pay package, but also gratification and purpose and sleeping well at night. So it's not just the EMIs, but it's also the change that you're actually making in your immediate and your distant community. Now, so thank you for that effort and the numbers that you said about 7,000 hours and 3,000 people. So it's really really commendable. Now, my last question, and of course we can have one or two more if we have time, is with regard to this partnership that we share with that Equity and Swechha shares. And very interestingly, Swechha's tagline also actually is education, environment, and enterprise. And of course, we didn't do this because your tagline is that, as in we've had this tagline for almost 25 years, and perhaps that's why we were the destiny got us together in that sense. How do you look at this entire partnership that that we have in advancing sustainability goals? Of course, Swechha is the partner where we specifically work with schools. So there's some bit of overlap between education and environment, but largely we are in that net zero category of partnership on environment. So how do you assess our relationship? How do you look at it?
So first things first, we're very grateful for this partnership. I mean, I think this partnership's a really good demonstration of how, enterprise is able to partner with partners like you and drive meaningful progress, right? I mean, and I think where we've got the greatest value and insights is the perspectives that you're bringing us from the grassroots, and how that's truly helped us shape the efforts of some of the things we've done together. A good example of the public-private partnership equivalent that I reference here is the Bridge Gap program. I mean, you referenced working with schools, right? I mean, we started with 10 schools when we started, and today we're positively impacting over 30 schools, right? What you guys also bring to us is a level of structure and scalability of processes, right? And I think to your earlier point, right? I mean, how do you ensure that what you do is not a flash in the pan or not something that resonates with a CEO or a CEO's partner, as you initially referenced, right? So, but for us, it's taking that beyond, right? I mean, giving that level of scalability, giving that level of sustainability to our efforts, which means we are here for the long term. We're thinking about what good looks like in time to come and for future generations. That focus around the long term and the sustainable development goals has meant that we've been able to partner with you and train over to 3,000 students around climate awareness, right? Again, 3,000 may not sound like a lot, but if you go back and do it from a mathematical perspective, it is a lot because the value that these 3,000 people can create forward looking, we're really hoping that these guys will pay it forward for us. So the future generations will benefit. And there's a level of awareness that we've managed to create, which I think is very, very positive when I look back at the partnership. The work we've done around creating or replenishing green cover, right? I mean, almost 4,500 saplings, trying to work around green school ecosystems, the clubs that we've put in place. All of this is helping us drive the momentum. The partnership with you has taught us that it's important to continue to get views and insights, be open to perspectives from the grassroots and listen. Because what it has meant is we are building something that's not a flash in the pan, but it's lasting, scalable, and sustainable. Right. So to that extent, I think we are incredibly grateful. We've got a lot of leverage from this partnership, and we look forward to what we can do together in the years to come as well.
Thank you, Narasimhan. And as you rightly said, that it's not just 3,000 students. In a way, we are talking about 3,000 families. And perhaps if we stretch that, then we're almost talking about 3,000 mohallas slash communities. That's one part of the impact imagination. And the other is, as you rightly said, that when you sow that seed early on of climate responsibility and climate friendly behavior, one is the annual report looks good with these numbers, but our planet is going to look much, much better because these are non-tangible, non-measurable inputs that perhaps will show result after 20 years, 30 years, or not, perhaps not in our lifetime, as in, the next generation. So I also look at this work and this partnership and this collaboration as not just a financial cycle output outcome calculation, and a very pretty looking pie chart and an Excel sheet, but perhaps a prettier looking future in that sense. My last question and my concluding question to you would be, as in just a comment, that this is where the journey has been for the organization, for Equity, in terms of onboarding on this philosophical path, action laden, action driven, action packed net zero purpose. And then, of course, looking at also how the world is rapidly changing in terms of the frequency and intensity of climate events that are actually happening. It's slightly more, it's more, there's more risk, climate risk that we had imagined. So do you have more plans? Are you going to look at doing some more nationally, internationally? Is this net zero? Are you also? I feel that 2050, I think it'll be faster than that as an organization and also in the society in that sense.
I mean, listen, personally, I'm a big believer in the fact that climate change is here to stay. As a Bangalorean that's grown up in Bangalore, I was laughing a couple of days ago because someone said, "Hey, in 2 business days you went from winter to summer," right? I mean, that's tangible, right? I mean, as much as it was a funny meme that was roaming around on social, it's a real reflection of the fact that climate change is here and is for real. So anyone that doesn't believe in the fact that climate change is real must be living under a rock. And certainly as an individual and as a firm and a franchise, we are big believers in the fact that we have a responsibility and a role to play in ensuring that we do our parts and we try and get bigger parts of the universe that we operate in to kind of align to these goals. And I think the good news is a lot of corporations are continuing their investment and efforts in this particular area. And the corporate world more particularly is doing a lot more in this particular space, right? So I think if you think about where we are as an organization, we've probably done 30% reduction in emissions from where we started in 2019. We want to get to 50% by 2030, but at the rate and pace at which the world is changing, might we do it faster? Possibly, right? Every time we have an opportunity to invest in infrastructure, as our business grows, we look for offices and facilities that have the requisite level of LEED certification. I mean, our offices in Pune are LEED certified. We are in the process of announcing a move to a LEED certified building in Gurgaon, which is another flagship operation that we have in India. So our goals are clearly for us to stay and continue to do more in this space. We'd like to do more, and as an organization, we are committed to do more. And we're very grateful that the workforce that we have that supports us, which is the foundation on which we are built on, is very passionate about this particular cause and continues to drive the momentum for us. For that, we are forever grateful.
Perfect. Thank you, Narasimhan. And I think our partnership here between Equity and CHRO, it's not just around sustainability, but we also have a sustainable partnership. We've been around, been together for 4 years, and hopefully we should be together for some more years at least. And the impact as in that this relationship has created is phenomenal. So thank you once again, Narasimhan, for this lovely chat, and hope that all of us together reach that net zero and imagine that pretty planet and a cleaner planet, cleaner air, cleaner water, safer homes, safer childhood, better education, good jobs for everyone. That's what will perhaps make our planet a better place. So thank you once again for this podcast conversation.
Melinda, thank you. Thank you for having me here today. Thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity to meet you and talk about our partnership and the things we do as a franchise. Thank you again.
Thank you.